Podcast. We're going to get into all things Boston College, as well as the prop shop and Dabbundo's digits. And we've got another 10 thought for you ahead of this Syracuse basketball season. We're going to dive into Jimmy Boeheim. What is the second coach's son, who is also the first coach's son? What's his role going to look like for this Syracuse team this season? That is coming up next.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Taking you into the weekend here on the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Tyler Aki, Tim Leonard. Today's episode brought to you by McDonald's. Proudly serving communities since 1965, McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
There it is.
All right, today's show, we've got some hoops for you because we want to continue our 10 Thoughts series as well as some football stuff. And you can check us out wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every single day. Find us on YouTube and subscribe. We're free and available on all platforms. And drop some comments as well. We'll start reading some of these YouTube comments throughout the show once things slow down a little bit. But let's dive into some hoops here from the start, all right? Because Jimmy Boeheim shined last night. We didn't even really get a chance to talk about him because we were all Cole Swider, Joe Girard, and Benny Williams. But Jimmy Boeheim was fantastic last night in his role, 19 points. You and I have kind of talked about this a little bit. He's going to be that Marek guy. Now, it's going to come down to, is he going to be the starter or not? But I think he answered, even though I wasn't going to take a lot away from the pace game, good or bad, with Jimmy Boeheim's performance. I do think he kind of answered some questions last night. Now, again, I want to see it against a D1 opponent, but last night was certainly a step in the right direction for Jimmy Boeheim.
Yeah, I mean, I think this isn't an original opinion by me, but a lot of people have been talking about this. He's kind of going to be the Marek role this year, and honestly, he's probably going to be what Marek was supposed to be, meaning that he will likely play mostly the forward position. It's kind of funny to remember that there was a time where Marek did that for all of last year. He was at that 5 position, the anchor of the zone, and he performed really well despite being undersized. Jimmy's a big guy. Like, seeing him on the court, he's definitely put on some weight.
Too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the last time we saw him. I mean, he's a good 6'8". He was playing that high post role really well, and he's just a very cerebral player, very smart, high IQ. Seems like he is another one of those guys that, despite being in his quote-unquote first game for Syracuse last night, feels like he's been with the program for a while and feels like he knows these guys really well. So they're going to need a facilitator this year. They're going to need a guy to get it out to those shooters, and I think he could be maybe second or third on the team in assists when it's all said and done.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he led too. I don't think that's totally out of the question. I think Girard will, but it wouldn't be totally out of the question if he's playing kind of that point forward role from the elbow or something like that. And listen, I think Jimmy Boeheim's best success is going to come from how good can he be without the ball or with limited touches. Because you've got so many guys that can stroke it on this team. If he can just make some quick passes, I think he'll be a really effective player. He doesn't have to be a scorer for this team to click, for this team to go, but you're also going to need a veteran guy who can get you a bucket at times, and he's proven he can do it at Cornell, and now I want to see it every single night with Syracuse going up against a lot of Power Fives.
Yeah, and, you know, we're kind of a new age team this year, very modern, shooting a lot of threes and a lot, you know, Joe Girard's going to chuck it from 30 feet at times, sometimes to the fan base's disliking, But Jimmy's kind of an old school player, right? I mean, he can still shoot it. Don't get me wrong. He's actually probably, if anything, underrated. And he made some threes last night that looked pretty solid. Didn't shoot it great from the foul line. We talked about that a little bit. Hopefully that was just a hiccup there. But he plays with his back to the basket. He plays kind of a slower, methodical pace. He works inside and out. He uses both hands. He actually, I felt like it's weird sometimes when you see him shoot left-handed because that's the only way that reminds me that he's a lefty. Sometimes I watch him dribble predominantly with his right and then go up with his right. And then it's like, oh, wait, yeah, he is a lefty. And Devo brought this up. He was doing the radio game with Brian Higgins the other night. And he said, yeah, he uses his right hand like I use my left hand, Devo said. It's very true. Like he seems to always use his right hand around the basket, which is interesting.
And I mean, who's the teacher here? I mean, we know about the Devo
Right.
sessions in the basement, right?
Sure.
At the Boeheim family gym. You'd imagine that's part of the training sessions that has taken place. And listen, we saw the wonders that Devo worked with Buddy last year. And if he can do the same thing with another Boeheim here, that'd be awesome. That would
Yeah.
be awesome, because if you've got two Boeheims that are clicking, and we kind of talked about this yesterday too on the show where we were recapping our thoughts from the exhibition, but he's one of the guys. Like, he's been around this program for so long that the learning curve and the chemistry and the gelling, it feels like with all of these guys. I think the guys who are going to have the hardest time gelling and mixing are Cole and Benny Williams, but they seem like they're there already as really being guys that are indoctrined with the team.
Yeah, it seems like the team gets along great. We brought that up yesterday. I do think the early contender for most talked about Twitter storyline, the basically Joe versus Kadari of this year, is probably going to be Jimmy versus Benny, right? Like, if
Yeah.
we had to pick one storyline that becomes a Twitter topic or a poll or
Yep.
that type of thing, and Jim Boeheim's having to get on the podium and answer questions about, that could be it. And from what we saw in game one, I think how we're handling it is how we should be handling it right now. Now, that was just pace, and we'll see how it progresses here. But I'm totally fine with Jimmy starting as long as it doesn't mean that Benny is getting, I want Benny to get minutes, and I think he will
Right.
get minutes even with Jimmy starting. And I guess the question then becomes, all right, how do you close the game? Do you close it with Jimmy? Do you close it with Benny? Hopefully we'll figure that
close with
out. And
both.
over time, yeah, maybe you close it with both. If Swider's off for whatever reason, maybe
Or if those two are
Jimmy at the
defensively the
5.
two best that you can have at the forward spots.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's going to be an interesting storyline to monitor. As long as Benny is getting 20 to 25 minutes a night, I don't really care who starts.
Yeah, and listen, I think perfect world, Benny's getting 33 to 35 because it means he's really thriving and he is looking like one of those standout freshmen. But if he's not, you've got a really good, solid backup option in Jimmy Boeheim, a guy who's done it in the Ivy League. And listen, we can talk about the Power 5 and the mid-major to Power 5 jump, but it feels like the guys that come out of the Ivy League pretty good traditionally. Like, I think of some of the guys that have made the leap. I mean, just look last season with Mike Smith at Michigan, and his leap from Columbia, I believe it was, to Michigan. He
Yep.
was really good. Makai Mason, a guy at Yale who went to Baylor, he was really strong there. It feels like the Ivy League is almost the exception to the rule.
Yeah, I mean, for every good one, there's probably 2 or 3 bad ones, right? Like Patrick Tapei, I don't really know what his status is right now.
I
He's
knew
the guy that
someone would
comes to
probably fire
mind.
back with that, but it feels like the
Yeah.
safest bets have been out of the Ivy League.
Yeah, I think it's a case by case basis. I mean, I think back to that UNC team from a couple years ago where they had a couple guys, Christian Keeling and a couple other guys that came in from sort of the mid-major level, and they were expected to be good, and then they just didn't really work out. And then you look at Louisville, it seems like every year they pick off a mid-major point guard. Carly Jones was last year,
Yeah.
who, for whatever reason, like Chris Mack, and he's got a couple to choose from this year that seem like they're, for a lot of other teams, it would be like, oh, that's a question mark for Louisville. Another mid-major playing up at the point guard position. How good can they be? But now this is like 4 or 5 years in a row that Chris Mack has done this. So you kind of just buy into it more.
All right, let's predict the stat line here for Jimmy Boeheim. End of season, points, rebounds, assists. What are you going with?
Maybe 10 points, 6 rebounds. I mean, this is all just off the top of my head. I'd have to probably think about it some more, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 assists per game. And I could even see maybe 11.5 points if he has kind of the season that we're projecting from him.
I was going to go 9 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, which doesn't sound like gaudy numbers, but like I can see that being a super productive 9, 5, and 4. Like, Marek never put up out of this world numbers, but he was always one of the most productive players on the floor. You needed a guy like Marek, and I think if they were keeping track of the stats, like the hockey assists for a guy like Marek, they're probably through the roof.
So I guess this is a better exercise. We know Buddy's probably going to lead the team in scoring. That's at least, I'm assuming, most people's pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have second, third, fourth, fifth if you were like ranking the rest, basically? in points per game.
Yeah, I'll probably go Swider second. That
Mm-hmm.
third one's tough, man.
Yeah, because I don't know if Gerard's going to even be double.
You know what it's contingent on? It's contingent on how many points or how many minutes per game Benny gets. Because if Benny's getting 30 minutes a game, that's probably my pick. If it's not, then I'd probably go with Gerard. And then I think.
What about Jesse too? I mean, right? Like he's
but
I think we're going to see a lot of those guys in that 8 to 12 range that we saw last year,
which is good. It's a healthy thing to have offensively, and this is going to be a team that probably averages around high 70s, low 80s points per game too. So there's going to be a lot of pie to pass around.
Right. So that's why I lean towards maybe 11.5 for Jimmy, and that doesn't mean that the other guys aren't going to score that much. I think we'll just see a lot around that number this year. The other thing is Gerard is maybe going to have a 30-point game in there. Like he has done that in ACC play as much as people don't want to recognize it a little bit, but he's probably just also going to have games where he has 2 points and 8 assists, you know?
Mm-hmm. The Siena fans, they hate it.
Right.
All right. This episode of Locked On Syracuse is brought to you by McDonald's. Proudly serving communities since 1965, McDonald's has been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect. A place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's where teammates, competitors, the home team, and the road team can come to recharge. It's the perfect place you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. Tim, you and I, we've done our road trips. We've been through the trenches of that. Road trips are fun, and they're even more fun when you've got the Golden Arches waiting for you aside the highway. You pull off, grab some McNuggets, grab a Big Mac, get some French fries, get a McFlurry, whatever you like. I always go for the 20-piece McNuggets with the buffalo sauce, some fries, McFlurry on the side.
That's a pro move. Holy cow.
That is my go-to every single time I'm pulling off to McDonald's. So head on over to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect and go out and get whatever you like, whether it's a burger, whether it's the McNuggets like I get. What's your go-to, Tim?
So I usually go 2 McDoubles, then I sprinkle in like a small fry. But if I'm really hungry, I'll go for the Big Mac. I have no shame. Why not? Some days you just need it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. All right. Time for some football stuff here. Let's get into this matchup against Boston College. And there's so many little different wrinkles. It's almost like a Spider-Man meme. It feels like Boston College is almost on tape delay of what Syracuse was experiencing a couple weeks ago. And that's because they now have a quarterback dilemma. But Syracuse is just 3 or 4, or what are we now? 4 or 5 weeks past that situation. So Dennis Grosel, and who's two? Who is the second the second player behind that hidden door right now? Jeff Hafley has been very secretive, kind of like what Dino Babers has been all season long and really his entire time at Syracuse. But that's what we're looking at right now. We're not exactly sure who's going to be under center for Boston College.
Yeah, so here's the quote from Jeff Hafley for anyone that missed it. He said, "I feel good with the quarterback situation. I've made a decision, which I've thought about really hard, and I've watched a lot of tape myself, and then obviously with the staff, and we made a decision, and we feel really good about it, and the team knows about it, and I think for obvious reasons, I'm going to keep it at that until we get on the field and play." Dennis Grosel's been starting. Fans will probably remember him. He was a part of the infamous Brian Ward game that I like to call it, where BC ran all over Syracuse and then Ward was fired the next day. That's one I'd like to forget from 2019. But Grosel's a 6-year guy. He's been a starter for a couple years now. If you count this year, he just can't throw a deep ball. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's a tough situation for them because they went into this year. They had pretty high hopes. Jurkovec leaves, or he gets hurt, obviously. Now he's out for the year. And their offense actually has these nice weapons, like a Zay Flowers, who is a borderline All-American if he's on the right team. But
always good on the offensive line, too.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think what a lot of BC fans' gripe is right now, and I'm sure Syracuse fans can relate to this a little bit, is that the offensive coordinator and the staff is still sort of trying to run the Jurkovec type of offense with the quarterback that can't really throw it vertically. And Grosel's strengths are just rushing the football. And a lot of people that are BC fans are just advocating for, all right, if you're going to start Grosel, that's fine, but don't go out there and try and go spread and throw deep. Like, actually cater to his strengths.
I'm sure Locked On Boston College right now with AJ Black, I mean, he might be rerunning some of our old episodes from like 4 or 5 weeks ago and just dubbing over DeVito and Trader with Grossell and Dracovic
Yeah.
and some other names too. But I mean, this is the exact same situation we've been talking about. And it's funny that you get to this point now. And I mean, we saw Dino Babers, he made the gutsy switch a couple weeks ago. What if Athlete makes the gutsy switch here? And it's the one that propels the team, injects a little juice in them, and picks up a big win. Because right now, 6.5 point underdogs. Syracuse is almost a touchdown favorite in this game.
I know.
I mean, if you came into this game telling me that against an FBS opponent, Syracuse was going to be a touchdown favorite against the team, especially after that Rutgers game, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah, and I guess part of that is Syracuse is 7-1 against the spread, so Vegas is just tired of losing probably, and they're giving Syracuse a little bit more respect this week. BC has lost their last 3 games; their offense has been terrible. But yeah, outside of Grossell, this quarterback room is not great. It's very inexperienced. They probably can pass the ball vertically a little bit more, but then their weaknesses are probably Grossell's strengths. So I don't know. When I read that quote at first from Jeff Hafley, I thought, all right, if he's made a decision and he's told the team about it, probably means he's switching things up here, right? Like, why would you tell the team, hey, we're still going with
It's not a decision if you're keeping the same guy out there.
Right. But then, so he was asked how tough of a decision was it? And he said, not a hard one once I really dug into it and kind of unpeeled things. I thought it would be a lot harder than it actually was, to be honest with you. So not very hard. And you'd think, all right, well, if you're going to make the decision from going from the 6-year guy to an inexperienced guy, then it would probably be a hard decision, right? And also, he's brought up how he was looking at film with the coaches. Like, is that practice film? So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on who comes out of quarterback for them. But I think if it's Grossell, then the question becomes, do they actually give him an offensive playbook that is more designed for his play style?
Yeah, I mean, if it's Grossell, the Syracuse defense, I mean, you can just have the offense run what they've been running the entire season and going up against that. Like, you don't need a scout team. You can just have the ones run against each other, and you're getting the same thing probably offensively. All right, let's dive into some of the numbers now. Anthony Dabbundo joins us every week from the Action Network. He'll break down all the numbers, all the advanced analytics that you need to know. Here it is, Dabbundo's Digits.
The numbers you need to know. Anthony Dabbundo breaks down the biggest stats for this week's Syracuse matchup. Everybody! Dabbundo's Digits. If you ain't taking stats, kick the out the class. On the Locked On Syracuse Podcast.
Where you at? Let's go. Syracuse won a close game. Imagine that. The Orange had a 82% post-game win expectancy in that game based on the advanced box score last week against Virginia Tech, so it was a deserved win for Syracuse, who showed some significant ability to hit big passing plays and explosive runs. That will be very important this coming Saturday, as the Boston College defense is quite good on a play-to-play basis, but is prone to allowing big plays. Boston College ranks 91st in explosive plays allowed and 106th in havoc created. So the stats say there won't be a ton of negative plays produced by this BC defense, be it tackles for loss or turnovers. And while they might be able to limit the Cuse rushing attack, as BC is 26th in rushing EPA per play and 28th in success rate, it's not easy to run on them, and it's probably the second best run defense the Orange have faced besides Clemson. But with that being said, the Eagles can be had through the air. While they're top 20 in early down defensive efficiency, they allow a ton of big passing plays, and it seems the Orange found a way to produce those last week against the Hokies. Cuse is now 7th in overall passing explosiveness, and BC is bottom 10 in big plays allowed through the air this season. Syracuse's offensive success will come down to whether it can continue to find explosive plays through the air to keep the chains moving, especially if BC is able to rein in the running game and Sean Tucker. One extremely impressive sign for Cuse, they converted 40% of their passing downs last week for first downs. That success rate is well above the national average. The Boston College offense took a huge hit when Phil Yurkovich was lost for the year, and now it's down to a former walk-on. And he's performed admirably as a backup, but the BC offense is middling in almost every way. In fact, they're quite boring. They had a 32% success rate against a bad Louisville defense last week. They've been trending downwards for the last few weeks and were well below national average last week. The Syracuse defense has regressed too in recent weeks and was genuinely concerning against Virginia Tech. But the Eagles are 85th in rushing efficiency, 67th in passing, both slightly below average. It's not a BC offense that's particularly bad or good at any one thing, but the Orange's ability to stop the opponents in the red zone has become a major concern for this defense. The Orange are allowing way too many touchdowns this year once teams cross the 40 on them, and its own offensive issues at turning drives and yards into touchdowns is a reason Syracuse is playing all these close games. Looking at the post-game win expectancy, Wake and VT both should have been pretty comfortable wins, but missed field goals, settling for field goals, and turnovers have kept their opponents in these games. Not having a special teams coordinator probably factors into that. The Orange are 102nd in special teams. BC is 16th. So special teams could easily swing this game with a critical play. If it's close late, every point matters. The SP Plus power ratings have the Orange and Eagles at 54th and 55th, right next to one another. Our own Action Network power ratings project these teams very close to even, with the Orange about a point better. So while the Orange are 6-point home favorites, biggest they've been in an ACC game since the Louisville game in 2018, the stats suggest this one will be yet another nail-biter. The Office of Dabbundo's Digits is making the annual pilgrimage to the Dome for Alumni Weekend. Looking forward to seeing Dino Babers manage a close game in person this time. Think the Orange win, but I think it's going to be pretty close.
All right, our thanks as always to Anthony Dabbundo and Owen Valentine, who's put together all the specs on Dabbundo's Digits. If you're watching us on YouTube, that little video, that intro video, that's done by the great Owen Valentine. So shout out to him as well. Actually, Dabbundo, he's going to be at the game, like you mentioned.
Yes.
And he's going to be joining us. You're going to be out. You're going to be on the road, so you're not going to be able to make it for the Monday pod. We wanted to bring you all a Monday pod, so it all sort of worked out. Anthony Dabbundo is going to be there, so he's going to join me on Monday for the show. So looking forward
Break
to
down
that.
Dino Babers, as he said
Exactly.
there. I got a kick out of that at the end.
So I'm sure we'll have some decision-making stuff to talk about because he is the master of that, of all the analytics and stuff. So we'll break down Boston College and Syracuse as the Orange keeps trudging forward, trying to get closer and closer to the bowl win. It is a must-win game for their bowl hopes. So we'll dive into that and prop shop in just a little bit. But first, let me tell you a little bit about BetOnline.ag. They are back and better than ever. A brand new web interface for the start of basketball season with more odds, props, and lines than ever before. It remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So head on over to their new website that's been updated for both your desktop as well as your mobile devices and sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. Again, promo code Locked On for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Also want to remind you guys that if you haven't tried a Built Bar by now, I don't know what you're doing. You are truly missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it does not taste like one. You have to try one of these amazing Built Bars yourself to believe it. Most protein bars, we know, they're chalky, they're waxy, they're just plain hard to chew. A Built Bar is soft. It's covered in 100% real chocolate, and when you bite into it, you know you are eating something different. It's an awesome experience. They have so many great flavors to choose from, like coconut raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, our personal favorite on the pod, and also cherry barcia. And this month only, Built is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days. So check their website often. You don't want to miss out on those. Go to built.com, use our promo code. That's locked15, all one word, to get you 15% off your next order. Again, the promo code locked15, locked the number 15 for 15% off at built.com.
Time for the prop shop here, our favorite time of the week. And my goodness, Tim, I feel like a 2020 Syracuse player. Dino Babers is going to go to the podium for me because these young men are hurting right now. I went 1-4 last week. I was once upon a time up like 400, 500. I'm now only up to $60. I dropped 300 last week. You also didn't have a great week last week. You were 2-3, but it was better than what I put together.
I made ground
down,
though, which I'll take.
Yes, you did make
just
ground.
Trying to chip away.
So you're down 250 overall. let's just start with this. Boston College's rushing attack here. Will BC go over 145.5 yards in this game?
So I think this is the key to the game, right? Can Syracuse, after an odd, sort of uncharacteristic rush defense performance against a Virginia Tech team that on paper wasn't that great last week, can they stop explosive plays? Because BC's not great on a play-to-play basis, as Dabbundo laid out, but they've hit some explosive plays. They have a good offensive line. They're averaging 164 rushing yards a game right now, 65th in the FBS. But you look at their last 3 weeks, 46 rushing yards at Clemson, 97 against NC State, 125 against Louisville. They've really been struggling. I still think they take the over here. And I think a storyline coming out of this game, well, I do think Syracuse is going to win, and we'll get to that, is, all right, is this rush defense not as good as we thought? Because I didn't like what I saw against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over as well here. I just think the game plan is going to probably lend itself to that. I kind of called last week for Syracuse. I'd like to see the 70-30 split for rushing to passing, and I think we're going to see something similar here with Boston College, whatever quarterback goes out there, they'll probably change the playbook up a little bit for a little more running for Grosel. And if there's a new quarterback in there, I'd imagine you're not going to throw him the full playbook right away, the
Right.
full vertical passing attack, because I don't think this is necessarily the game that they would have done that in. So I'm going to go with the over there as well. Garrett Schrader, over under 3 total touchdowns in this one, coming off a 5 touchdown performance last week against Virginia Tech. Where are you siding here?
I think he'll probably have 3, so I'll take the over. And worst case, I push there, I think. I just don't see him only getting 2 total touchdowns. He's rushed for 3 a couple times now, and he's averaging 3.2 in the 5 starts he's made since he's become the full-time starter.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under here, but I too think it's gonna push. I think that 3 number is fair. I'm wondering too, like, obviously he's capable of having a 3 touchdown rushing performance. I just don't know if he's going to be able to throw the ball with the same success that he had last week. So I'm going to go with the under there, just because I think it might be tough for him to get that 3rd rushing touchdown. I think he's going to get all of his touchdowns on the ground in this game. First Syracuse touchdown here. Sean Tucker at even odds right now, plus 100. That's followed by a Schrader run, plus 120. Then you get into the weeds here. Damian Alford plus 550, caught the game winner last week. Anthony Quealy plus 600. Courtney Jackson plus 650. And other or a defensive touchdown plus 700.
I'm going to go for a Hail Mary here. I think we're due for a defensive touchdown, right? Or like a defensive turnover of some sort.
We haven't had too.
One. Yeah. I don't know if Garrett Williams is playing, if it's Deuce. I don't know how it happens, but BC's got offensive problems. I could see them coughing it up or something, and maybe it's a special teams Pena return.
I could see a Jeff Cantonark who just lights someone up, scoop and score.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but gosh, we just haven't had a lot of turnovers in Syracuse games this year on either side.
Honestly,
we haven't turned it over much, and
I think it shows how good the defense has actually been, where they're playing at this level and they're not getting turnovers. They're getting after the quarterback, which is a better sign of good defense than turnovers, where a quarterback might make a bad throw, receiver runs a wrong route, ball gets deflected, nose of the football bounces your way. I think getting after the quarterback and getting sacks is a better indication of defensive play. So you're going to take the high road here and go with the defensive or special teams or really just anyone else to score.
Right.
I'm just going to, I guess I'm picking between 2 here, the Tucker and the Schrader runs.
Yeah.
I'll go with Tucker.
Feels like he usually gets the first one. I don't know why.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just
you're
me.
right. And it's usually like from 20 to 25 yards out too, it feels like. Sometimes on a 3rd and short, 4th and short. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. Next up, let's pick the spread here. Syracuse, largest favorites they've been this season against an FBS opponent. 6.5 is the number. Where are you siding on 6.5? Nearly a touchdown for the Orange.
Yeah, and it's, I guess, the first time we've been favored against an FBS team in the past 2 years now, really since we've been doing this pod, basically, which is not something to laugh about, I guess, but I'm laughing about it. I don't know. I think they're going to win the game. I feel pretty good about that. Part of me feels like this is the game that isn't close because, gosh, can we have another close one? And BC is really struggling. But at the same time, I would have guessed this line. If we were doing the Cousin Sal guess the line thing, I really would have
Turn the cameras on, Tim.
Yeah, right. I would have put it at like -3 if I was trying to play Bill Simmons in that role. So I don't know if I can swallow 6.5, man. That's a lot. And
That's
I
a
feel
lot,
like we're
yeah.
just maybe destined to win every game by 3. So I think Syracuse will win, but that's just a lot of points.
Yeah, for two pretty evenly matched teams, I'm with you. That's a lot of points. And like you mentioned, you brought it up last segment too. Syracuse is 7-1 against the spread.
Are they going to go 8-1? Like, it doesn't feel possible, you know?
At a certain point, Vegas picks up on things and starts expanding and ballooning things. And this might be that balloon game here. And so I'm with you. I'm going to take Boston College with the points, but I'm with you too. I think Syracuse wins.
Right. Yeah, I think it would surprise me if they won. I also could see Syracuse winning this game by 20. I don't feel good enough to take them because there is a scenario where BC wins this game and they maybe just go to that quarterback switch and figure some things out or something.
Yeah. Next up, we got the total sitting at 50 here. Kind of an odd number, I think, for this game.
Yeah.
I can't tell if it's low or high. Let's put it this way.
I don't know what to
think. I think this thing is going to get I think there's going to be a 10-point disparity here. I just don't know if this total is low or high.
Right. Well, last week the over-under was 46, and Syracuse almost scored 46 on their own.
Yeah.
They scored 41, I believe. Over-unders this year, they're dead even for Syracuse. 4 unders, 4 overs so far. I guess I'll lean over, which is weird because BC's offense has been so bad, and these are two defensive-minded teams, if anything. But it's in the Dome. I just feel like these ACC games have kind of gotten wonky. Like, no matter who's playing, they've gone over, if anything. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, the way that game last week, I actually thought it was going to go under, and now I look so dumb because it was an easy over. It's just been a tough year to predict the over-unders for Syracuse, but I think Schrader is trending up, and maybe BC's hungry after some bad offensive performances in a row.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under here, I think, just because, I mean, these are divisional matchups, rivalry games. You play them every single year. You've had game plans installed for them every single year. I just think there's too much familiarity with the programs. It reminds me a lot of the divisional unders in the NFL where you've got that familiarity aspect to it. And 50 is a sort of big number here. I mean, what was last year? 17-14? And I get that the offenses weren't great, but even Boston College, I mean, offensively, Boston College was leaps and bounds above what they were last season. And Syracuse still kind of held them in check and nearly had a chance to win the game at the end. So I'm going to go with the under here. I think this could be a real rock fight. I said that last week, but this one, I think the familiarity aspect is there to certainly lend itself to that.
Yeah, I guess the only thing to that is it's familiarity with Dino's old offenses. Maybe not so much this version of the Schrader offense, but I'm with you. I could see it going either way. I just wouldn't bet this. It's a stay away, but if I have to pick, I'll take the over.
Listen, if you're going to do this, I think they have this on BetOnline.ag, but find an alternate total here. Yeah. And whatever side you're going to take, move it like 4 or 5 points. Get yourself a little bit of juice in your favor. I think this is going to, whatever the total number of points scored in this game is, I think it's going to be way off of what the total is. I don't see it being
I don't know which way.
Touchdown. I'm with you. I don't know which way it's going to go. So, all right, we both have Syracuse to win. We have Boston College to cover, and we have a total that's going to, I mean, you say it's going to go over. I say it's going to go under, but we both are kind of in agreement. It's not going to be close to that number of 50. So, all right. We'll be back on Monday, or I'll be back rather on Monday with Anthony Dabbundo from the Action Network. He's going to be at the game this weekend, so we'll break down all things Boston College and Syracuse. We'll also have another 10 thought for you for the Syracuse basketball season next week as we get closer and closer to the start of hoops. Can't wait for that. So for Tim, I'm Tyler. Everybody have a great weekend. Go make Locked On ACC your second listen today, and we will talk to you guys